company.
I don't have my notification yet.
We're live. Zach, we're live.
See my notification, and we'll start the recording.
Zach, we're live.
All right,
yeah.
we're officially
It's
live.
green. We've
Hey
done
everyone, we're going to be actually recording our podcast, the Covenant Cast, live today. So what we're going to do is, in a minute, we're going to start we are just recording audio, but we're going to start.
I'm on Facebook too. There we are. We're on Facebook.
We're on Facebook. All right, everybody, we're going to be recording the podcast live today. KeyForge released yesterday, so we didn't want to record this beforehand. Been kind of wild around here, especially with the tokens. It's been insane.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
There was someone commenting essentially like, I can't believe you hyped these for weeks and then like it was sold out before I got to this. And I totally understand. That's very unfortunate.
Hype manager did the job, I think.
Well, hype was managed. But the thing about it is that there is even knowing what we know now couldn't have made enough.
Maxed it out.
It just wouldn't have happened. So
maxed it out.
We really appreciate that, but it's been wild. So we're doing the podcast live. What we're going to do is we're actually going to open a display at KeyForge. We're going to look at the decks. This is the display that I got through a subscription, and I've been waiting to open it. And we're going to talk about evaluating the decks, whether it's crazy to pay $100 for a Horseman deck or whatever. Showing the app a little bit. And then we're going to be taking questions at the end instead of Ask Covenant. You can always use the hashtag Ask Covenant on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And we answer those questions on the cast. Today we're going to be picking some of those questions live. Any of them that we don't go to or get to, we'll add to the queue, and maybe we'll get to it on a future episode of the Covenant Cast. So without further ado,
you want to do the official intro?
We're going to do the official intro to the cast, and we're gonna dive in.
All right, let me close all of this stuff.
Yeah, make sure comments. Now, before I do start, if you're on Facebook, I'm on a Facebook comment. Steven's on YouTube.
I'm on YouTube. What up, Justin? Two Mavericks, no Horsemen.
If you're on Facebook, I would love to know. Video audio quality is great. I assume it's good. No one said anything yet.
I see the green bars over there. It looks good.
Okay.
Trust the machines.
All right, you ready?
Yes.
All right, let's do it.
I guess. Let's freestyle it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the... I'm going to start it again. Steve was talking. Nailed it. All right, you good?
Give it to me, yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Covenant Cast. I'm Zach.
And I'm Steven, and today we are hype on KeyForge because it officially released yesterday, and we have a lot to talk about. Join us. We're going to talk about evaluating decks, Mavericks and Horsemen going for hundreds of dollars, and all sorts of crazy things, so stick around.
Wow. And if you're live, I like the dance move there.
That's
all right. Now we have to act like we're doing something for a few minutes so that I guess, is the video going to get edited on YouTube, or is the live stream just going to go up?
I guess the live stream will just go up, won't it? Yeah. So we should...
So we can just go. There's no editing required.
But the audio will be sped up. We'll have the intro, so we'll have a little pause there for a second.
But we don't need to do anything for that.
No, we can insert silence and noise and anything we want. Oh, my voice, Zach.
Jesse Bechtold says, so this is how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
Correct.
This is it.
Hey, Jesse.
All right, you ready to dive in?
Yeah,
let's get into it. Okay, so KeyForge released yesterday. You know what? How many decks are registered in the app right now?
My app?
I presume it's the same for everyone.
Oh, total decks.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is pretty cool. They launched the app, and unlike X-Wing, they actually launched the app on the launch day, early on.
There's a lot of reasons it's not like
there
X-Wing.
Are currently, it's pretty cool. So the app is very simple, but there are currently 39,153 decks registered on the app.
Can you believe that?
So you scan your deck in, and then anybody can look up and see that deck, but only you can own it. And I assume, let me just look at I can look at my decks.
I will guess that is less than half of decks that have been opened. Actually, I think that's probably 20%.
I bet that is a fraction.
I haven't registered mine.
You have 7 or 8 in
I got all mine around here.
So another thing is when you click into a deck, you can remove the deck. So I assume that's for trading or selling or whatever. And it shows wins, losses, total, chains, power, and it says coming soon. So that's not working yet. I assume that'll be a function of tournaments.
Yeah.
You play your games, you have a win-loss rate and stuff. But one thing I did notice is when I was scanning decks, you gain an amber in the app for every deck that you scan. And once you get to a certain number, I don't know what happens, you get a key. And maybe you need 3 keys to do anything fancy.
Right.
But I have 4 decks scanned, 12 here, 2 in my starter that I got that are unique. I wonder if I can scan the non-unique. I doubt it.
Yeah, probably not.
And that would put me at getting a key. So we're going to see what happens when that happens as well.
You're going to do that all on the cast today?
I hope so, yeah.
Well, needless to say,
I'm going to keep talking.
All of you listening wherever you're listening, I think this was a better, I mean, this is an impressive launch. I think this is nothing but hype all around. The amount of decks that are registered is kind of indicative of that. If you told me 39,000 decks would be registered the day after the official release of the game, I think I would have been very much surprised by that fact. And then the general vibe just online and everywhere that we are and what I've been looking at for KeyForge has been incredibly excited, very positive, seemingly just totally hyped for this thing. So, seems like a winner. I mean, we also saw that FFG was sold out of their starters and their Archon decks. What does that mean?
That's crazy.
I mean, is this like, are we gonna have a week and then we're out of stock everywhere?
So, pretty much I'm trying to think of any that didn't do this. Maybe L5R. Every other FFG game that I've interacted with on launch usually comes out hot and very quickly is hard to get. So if that's the case, we see the FFG website out. It could be that these decks, this initial print run, is gone in the next week or two. So in that event, and that's kind of what we've been saying, I think, on our social accounts and stuff, is if you haven't got the decks you want, or you don't have as many decks as you think you're going to want in the next couple of months, I recommend getting those quickly.
Now, do you think, I mean, is this a kind of game, so with a collectible game, a lot of the time, you have those print runs happen, and then it's like, once it's gone, and you move to the next set, right? So we know KeyForge is kind of following in a similar model, but also, of course, it's a unique game, so it's very different in a lot of ways. You think they will reprint this over and over as they need to?
I assume because of the way they make the unique decks, if they sell out quickly enough, they would reprint it, because they're going to want to have product in before the next set comes out, whenever that's going to happen. They haven't said anything about that. Kind of like with Destiny, they reprinted the first couple of sets, and I think by the second set or third set, they were able to print enough, based on how they're seeing demand.
A little touch and go
But
here.
this is a difficult game. We've been talking about it for a while in the cast to predict, because what is the big question for me, there's the upfront initial hype and demand, but I still think one of the most popular formats is going to be show up, buy a deck, play.
Yeah, I think that's a weekly format, right?
So if product is gone, you can't do that anymore, right? And so the other question you have to ask, especially with a game like this with unique games, and I don't know where they're at with set 2. I don't know any of that kind of conversation other than we expect another set. But do you reprint the first set? Or do you just make the second set faster and make more of it and move on?
That's a good question, and I honestly don't know the answer. But all of that to say, KeyForge, this is an incredibly exciting time. It's a brand new style of game. It seems to have been extremely successful, and so now we just get to enjoy it. This is one of the most fun parts of any game, right at the very beginning, whenever it actually goes off and it works, and everybody gets to just be excited about it. So that's what we're going to be doing today, and on that note, we must say the Archon tokens, those deluxe starters especially, got absolutely blown up
unbelievable
by everyone. We were absolutely floored, and I say that in the truest sense of the word. My voice is kind of half shaky because I've been fighting a cold, but it's also probably half shaky from all the screaming and celebrating that happened. So thank you guys so very much for that. We cannot say that enough, and we truly appreciate the support on those. We're all cylinders firing. We brought in extra cylinders to start firing. We're finding cylinders where we can to fire.
Let's go buy some cylinders.
And we're just trying to make things as fast as we can, and that's phenomenal. So hopefully those will be back in stock by end of next week. We'll see.
As soon as we can get them. And the other thing is, if you're not already on the wait list for that, there's on the deluxe starter, there's not a wait list proper. You actually have to go into it's the Archon token set wait list,
the
like
primary
the
set,
primary set. Once that's back in stock, the deluxe is kind of a bundle of the tokens and the deck. So once we put those back in stock, anyone on that list gets an immediate notification that these are available, and you can hop on. You can either buy the tokens or the tokens of the decks. A lot of people asking when those are going to be available, and like you said, as fast as we can make them. And on that note, the other part of the problem with that is that there are a limited number of decks. So we only have so much supply. There's only so much supply available, period. With FFG running out, question marks. So if you want decks or displays, grab those now, whether from us or wherever. And then also, once we have the deluxe sets in,
Well, I mean, we're already looking, honestly, we're looking at pulling back on the discount on those decks with the deluxe starters and maybe even the boxes, because obviously if they run out, it's like, well, whoa, that's insane.
Yeah.
So jump now, I would say, if you're going to jump, because economics is going to come into play here real quick. Zach, you want to start opening some decks?
Yeah, let's do it.
I've got
And
a couple of comments I want to get at real quick, which is the fun of a live podcast.
One thing too, one reason I really wanted to open these decks, besides I just really want to open my decks finally, is that there's a lot of people who are opening decks, they have extra decks they want to get rid of, people are about paying, I've seen hundreds of dollars for some of these decks, which is mind-boggling to me. So we're going to be talking about that, but essentially we're going to be opening these decks and talking about how we evaluate them by just looking at the list, because if you're looking at a list to buy or online or whatever, knowing how to look at that, and we're going to walk through a little bit, and I think Steve and I probably have a little bit different takes on it.
Yeah, I'll be having fun.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Zach will be winning, I'm sure. A couple of quick comments while you're opening those, Zach. Lucas Salmon, personally want to thank you guys for my KeyForge subscription. Just got an opening it, had some absolute fire decks. Absolute pleasure, Lucas. Thank you for subscribing. We put those decks in there specifically for you, I assure you.
I'm going to just go ahead and open a handful here.
Yeah, get them going. Pete Shirley, loving KeyForge so far, have 39 decks. Planning to grab a few more this weekend at my local store event. Julia saying on live chat that the win-loss tracking was going to come out after the Age of Discovery, after the community has started to develop and learn. So it looks like we have a little ways until that gets implemented. And a number of other things. I'll keep rolling through these comments.
I'm 2 for 3 here on pulling Martians, which is the saddest thing of the day.
Oh, wow, yeah,
look at that. Look,
Doesn't that mean you're going to give those to me?
We're going to go Martians. I'm going to give them to somebody.
Lore Hunter subscription coming in today. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
hey, thank you for being a subscriber. We can't say that enough.
I'm glad that we got it to you before the weekend. That's always the goal for sure.
All right, I'm going to stop at 6.
All right, so what are your 3 houses? What are the 3 houses that you prefer, Zach?
My favorite houses are Untamed, Brobnar, Shadows.
Not Dees or Dis. Dis.
Brad
said Dees, or Garfield said Dees. I can't remember.
I like Dis better than I like. I'm just gonna keep going. I like Dis better than I like Shadows technically. But some of the Shadows cards I really, really dig.
So are you a power gamer like Shadows?
I mean, I don't know.
Are you looking for the special symbols there?
I'm just seeing if there's any Mavericks floating around.
Oh, this is a good. See, I want to talk about evaluating this.
Yeah, we will. We will.
Got a lot of Martians.
All the Martians just getting owned.
Hey, that Erickson, what's up, chat? If I don't have a sub and buy, will they arrive soon without the sub? We're shipping boxes right now.
Yeah, so if you order right now, it'll literally go out the mail today. USPS processes on Saturday as well, so you'd probably get it Monday if you're in the U.S.
Oh, man, this is going to be a fun one. You're going to like this one, Zach. Brobnar Shadows D's.
Slugshot the Nun Lady General.
Hey, how about all those goofy names showing up?
I love it. All right, let's put Martians here.
Okay.
I think a 50%. Nope, I'm more than 50% Martians.
Okay,
look at this.
Here's the first thing that you have to ask.
Look at that.
Here's the first thing you have to ask. What is it when you open a deck? Do you look at the deck list or not?
So I really love when we played games where we both opened a deck and played, not looking at it, just because there's this level of discovery playing it for the first time without knowing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like if you have a display like this, you open 12 decks, and then I think it's pretty hard not to look.
Like, at least to get an idea of what you might want to start with
to
play, like the thing you're most interested in.
It's pretty easy, though, for me. And Logos is fine, but like I'm looking, and it's like...
I'm a huge Logos fan. I got that Time Traveler the other night. Oh my gosh, I love
like
it so much.
These are the ones I'm most interested in before looking at the list, and these are a little less interesting.
I'd be super interested in this deck. This is the house combination. So that's the Logos, Brobnar, Shadows. Is that right? That's everything I could ever want in a deck, and just in terms of houses.
So that's kind of what I think I start with. But I'm looking, and it's like some of these have Mars in them, but
I want to open this one.
Okay.
Can I do that?
Yeah.
So why don't I open one and you open one, and we're going to go through our process of how we start to talk through these decks.
I'm going to move these over.
So here's my theory, and I like that we're kind of what do you call it whenever we complement each other, but we're also like the opposite of each other?
Complimentary?
Bread and butter. No, there's a better.
Peanut butter and jelly?
Yeah, that'll work. You're peanut butter, I'm jelly, or I think that's accurate.
All right, let's just start here. I'm going to go Zoom-matic, the Loner of Hunger.
So here's my thing. Whenever I'm looking at a deck, my initial question is not, is this good? My initial question is, what does this deck want to do? I'm trying to discover all these cards working together. What is the most important thing that could happen within this set of cards? So I'm looking for things like, does this deck have a lot of stealing abilities? Does it have a lot of elusive? Does it have a lot of direct damage? Does it have board wipes? Does it not have board wipes? And basically just trying to figure out how I'm going to play this deck.
Well, I start by figuring out how to open the plastic. This is difficult. You give that one a spin.
Here, do you need like a knife or something?
I don't know. I need something.
I got it here. There you go.
Man,
Mom's got you.
That was way too fast.
All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out all the houses. And I'm going to do that right now. For those of you listening to the podcast, just imagine what it's like to see cards being laid. Oh, I also like to see my multiples. That's going to be an important indicator.
That's kind of a key thing there.
I love these cards. And just, just love it. That's what you do. You just got to love it.
I love... Have you seen Ritual of Balance?
Yes.
If your opponent has 6 or more, steal 1. And I love that art. It's got 2 in here.
Art is so good. All right. So while you're laying that out, Zach, I'm gonna talk to you about my shadows cards here. So the first thing I'm looking at is I've got 3 Nexus, which is indicative of me seeing Nexus a lot in the deck. Nexus is an elusive creature for shadows and has Reap use an opponent's artifact as if it was your own. So already my initial impression is like, okay, so if there's a strong artifact deck in my metagame, or if you have a deck that's like got all these gauntlets of command and all this crazy stuff,
sure,
this might be a good deck to start to think in that direction. Is this the kind of artifact answer deck? So I'm going to start there. So that looks like 3 Nexus.
That's cool.
I also notice I've got an elusive Urchin that steals, an elusive Naughty the Thief that steals. I've got a Skeleton Key that lets me capture 1. I've got a couple of direct damage cards here. Sacrifice a friendly creature to deal 3 to 2 creatures. Deal 2 to a creature. If it destroys it, steal 1. Silent Dagger, which reaps to deal 4 to a flank creature. So I've got some good direct damage here in Shadows as well. So a lot of stealing. I've also got this Moon Cursor. Love this card. And the Shadow Self, I'm always happy to see. This is a card that soaks damage from its neighbors. So if you're looking for a Shadows card that's always going to be worth something, that is definitely one. And a Miasma, so a little bit of control. So I'm looking at a little artifact control, some steal. I think this is a solid Shadows pool. A lot of times it's nice also to look at the number of creatures that you start to see.
Well, I was going to say, my first stop on the evaluation train, really with an entire deck, is how many creatures are in the deck.
Yeah, total.
So when I'm looking here at this deck over here, I'm just going to lay them out by the different houses really quick. But I've only got 4 Untamed, 4 Shadows, and then I've got 7 Dis. And my favorite part of Dis is the events. That's the most powerful thing they do. And there's like hardly any because of so many creatures.
Yeah, because you got this. Well, they have some cool creatures too. Isn't that cool?
They do have cool creatures.
I was playing with them last night, and I got one that had a lot of creatures. Well, and they're all really cool.
2 of these toxins that discard a random card from your opponent's hand.
Yeah.
It's like you get 2 of those going, it can get bad fast.
Good luck.
But you have a 36 card deck, so like kind of down the middle to me is the 16 to 18 creatures. And this deck here has 15, so it's a little light on creatures. But you have to be careful because if you're light on creatures, there's a lot of cards that reference having creatures.
Like in your deck?
Yeah.
Like friendly cards, yeah.
So even as an example, one of my favorite cards is Lost in the Woods from Untamed, which it gains you an Amber, but you choose 2 friendly creatures and 2 enemy creatures and you shuffle them into the deck.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
The problem with that, though, is if you only have 15 creatures, right? If I was even lighter on creatures, that could either be great, because if I don't have anything out, I can just get rid of 2 of your creatures.
That's true.
Which is good. But if I only have 2 things out, Lost in the Woods gets a lot harder to play.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, this is good. So that looks good. I mean, what are your initial impressions right now, just looking at the card pool? You've got some Dees and some Untamed.
I'm going through here, and there's a couple of just notably good cards in the game that I think are like game changers, in my opinion. Lost in the Woods is a great card. I think I have Save the Pack, which is a removal. It's a board
So
wipe.
you've got at least one kind of board wipe.
Yeah, it's like
card.
remove 2 units, remove every unit. Nature's Call lets me put 3 creatures into its owner's hand. So actually, if you have Nature's Call with Lost in the Woods, I could easily see you put 3 of your creatures in your hand, then you play it, you get rid of 2 of their creatures, and then you play those 3 creatures right back.
Yeah, nice. Yeah,
But
yeah.
I only have 4 untamed creatures, so
Yeah.
I won't be able to immediately play them right back, even with that combo.
Now, does that have Brobnar in it?
No.
Okay. Because Brobnar with these kinds of bouncing to hand cards that's a really good, you see some synergy across these factions.
Yeah.
They're all contributing a little bit to everyone's strengths.
But so first thing I look at is creatures, which I only have 15 of, which is a little light for my ideal kind of situation. The next thing I look at actually is how many of my cards generate amber, like directly. So I'm just going to pile this up really quick. And it's surprisingly high. I also got your, I have a Seeker Needle in here, which is just a card I like, but it's got 2 bad pennies.
No, it's a classic combo these days.
That's kind of a okay thing with only having 15 creatures.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Man, there's some really good cards in this deck. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4,
they all are good.
3, 6, 7, 8,
All
9,
decks are
10,
good.
11, 12, 13. I have 13 cards that get me amber directly.
Just like right on the card.
On the
Put
card.
it on the card, yeah.
Yeah, how many do you have? I'm just curious.
All right, well, let me lay it out. I've been doing a little secret tech over here, looking at what I can do.
Yeah, I need to look at the rest of my cards.
So one thing, and I think it's important to note that this is so much of the fun of KeyForge is right here. Just this discovery process of like, what can this deck do? What does it want to do? Like this deck has 2 Logos rares. Replicator, which I think is an incredible rare. You Reap, you can trigger the effect of anything that's on the board that has a Reap effect. That's a dangerous card to have on the board, so your opponent has to honor that always. And then it's got this really cool Psychic Bug. You get an Amber whenever
cool.
it comes out. When you play or Reap with it, you look at your opponent's hand. Now normally in a game, that's less exciting because the meta is so defined, you can generally guess pretty well. But in a game like KeyForge, it's really handy to know you've got Save the Pack, or you've got a bounce card in your hand, these kinds of things.
I completely agree.
Mother, of course, Wild Wormhole gains the Amber, another direct damage
Wild
card.
Wormhole is great.
2 phase shifts in Logos, which means you can play a non-Logos card on your turn.
That's awesome.
So that's one of the best things that Logos can bring to the table. Each time you play a card, draw a card, library access.
Oh man, with the 2 phase shifts, that's incredible. Because phase shifts playing a card, you draw, and then you can play a different card, you'll draw again.
Keep going.
That's pretty awesome.
You can just keep going. A couple of really good just Logos cards for me, cards that I have drifted to, is Interdimensional Graft. You play it, and if your opponent forges a key on their next turn, they give you their remaining Amber. The amount of situations where that has become very relevant for me is very high. When you pair that card with a Shadows card pool that does a lot of stealing, your opponent often has to over-amber themselves to get past your steal to forge a key. Then you hit them with the Interdimensional Graft, and there you go. So you start to unveil these kinds of combos that your deck can do. We also have each time you use an artifact, gain an Amber from the Analyst. We have 3 things that use my opponent's artifacts. So, you know, it's starting to look like this could be a little artifact
but again, the problem,
business.
The concern there obviously is that they're going to have to play artifacts for you to mess with.
That's true, yes.
On the particular one that uses your opponent's artifacts.
Now, this Brobnar, oh my gosh. Okay, so this deck is actually going crazy here. So, good creatures, 5 creatures. Is there only 10 Brobnar cards in here? Is that real? Is that a thing that should ever happen? Does that mean that is there something hiding somewhere?
What is it in your deck box?
Maybe, yeah.
Well, no, it can't be because you unwrapped it.
Yeah, right? All right, hold on, I'll count them up. So maybe this happens sometimes. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, they stuck together a little bit. Yeah, the Gauntlet of Command. Now here we go. That's what I'm talking about.
Gauntlet of Command is bomb.
So the Brobnar pool brings in some big creatures, which is always nice to see whenever I have these small Shadows things and these more techy Logos things.
You need some heavy hitters.
Troll, 2 Heave the Huges.
What
when
does
you
that
play
do?
it, you deal 2 to each undamaged creature.
That could just murder a board.
Also got the Gengar Chieftain, ready and fight with the neighboring creatures, always really good to see. It brings in old Bumpsy. Your opponent loses 1 when you play him. It's always good. Gauntlet of Command, ready and fight with a friendly creature. And the 2 cards I'm most interested in, Loot the Body is always good to see. Remainder of the turn, kill something, get something.
What's so funny about that card is anytime it gets played, you know exactly what's about to happen.
That's yeah, it's absolutely
It's going to
true.
get wily.
Now this is a cool little combo. It says has Loot the Bodies and War Song, which War Song is for the remainder of the turn, you gain 1 each time you fight, and this is gain 1 each time you destroy a creature.
That could be so much amber gained. And it's also the thing about Loot the Bodies is so good with phase shift.
Oh, it's so good.
Like,
yeah.
Being able to play that, I know sometimes I'll have 3 or 4 creatures out, but not Brobnar.
Yeah.
So Loot the Bodies is only really worthwhile if you have Brobnar can fight, or like I had a deck last night where it's you can choose a house and all creatures from that house can fight right now.
Yeah, love that card.
And it was pretty insane. But
so when I'm looking at this card pool, Brobnar's bringing in some heavy hitters. It's bringing in some ready and fight abilities. It's got 3 of them: Gauntlet of Command, Anger, and Gengar Chieftain, which is good. And then it's got some Amber Generation, Loot the Bodies, War Song, and then a nice little control card in Tremor, stun a creature and each of its neighbors. That's great. Now what else is bringing though, and this is starting to be a theme, 2 more direct damage cards. So Cannon, deal 2 artifact, and a deal 1 to each creature after it enters play artifact with the autocannon. So I've got artifacts now, which can be good for like the analyst. I've got some control cards. What I don't have is a massive board wipe. So what that immediately says to me, having played this game, is that like a Sanctum high armor deck is going to be a serious problem for me.
because they're going to put creatures out, they're going to have bulwarks, they're going to protect themselves, and you're going to have to fight them off.
Correct. I'm going to have to try to out-damage that curve, which can be very difficult. So looking at the deck, when I know that that's the case, as I'm playing my first game with this deck, like my goal is to see what you're up to in terms of your creature health and armor. If you're playing a bunch of big armor things, I'm going to take a different approach. I know I'm going to need to get big creatures out, versus if you're playing little things, that's going to be working right in my plans, and I know that I can deal with your creatures with cards that I'm going to draw later.
Sure.
I'm also looking to see if you're playing a lot of artifacts. I think I have an easy matchup.
You can gain so much amber if I'm playing a lot of artifacts.
If you're not playing any artifacts, then it's going to be a tougher matchup for me. So this looks to me like a very well-rounded deck. The only thing that it's lacking is any kind of a big board sweep.
Yeah, so in comparison to that, this deck is crazy over here.
Isn't it fun? You just get to discover it.
So check this out. And I think if you're listening and watching, when you're evaluating decks, laying it out and being able to see, like the way you just walk through your deck, and I can look, and you have one.
I have 11 amber generating cards off the play.
So I think that's like in the middle. I think
Yeah.
there's some with 5 to 7, and I think I've seen some with like 16, 17, which is crazy. But that means you're going to have to gain amber typically from the cards in play as well. So some decks are really good at reaping. It seems like you have weird ways of gaining a lot of amber, like Loot the Bodies as an example, or what was the other one? Every time you use an artifact?
I'm going to have to set up the War Song Loot the Bodies style turns to get enough amber, I think, to win against especially a fast deck. The Valiant Analyst, only 2 health. It's going to be hard for that card to stay on the board, but if it does, in the perfect world, a couple of Nexuses on the board with a Valiant Analyst, I can use opponent's artifacts, gain amber, and that would be an engine as well. A little bit of stealing and classic shadows kind of stuff, but honestly, this doesn't have a big gain a bunch of amber push, so the consistent pressure is going to have to be on your board with direct damage.
Yeah.
Try to slow the game down and make it to where over time I'm just going to outlast you with efficiency.
Well, and it almost feels like the kind of deck that I feel like you would play, which is
does.
like small exchanges,
Perfect
1 amber at a
mid-range,
time.
yeah.
Never like the big, explosive, crazy turn. So in the same way, like I'm looking at this deck. Check this out. This is what I realized. I look at number of creatures, like I said, number of creatures, how many cards generate amber, so you can kind of get a vibe. But then I'm now looking at, look at this. This is kills all damaged creatures.
Yeah.
This is choose 2 creatures on each side, shuffle them back into deck. This is put 3 creatures into hand. This is different. This is artifact control.
Most importantly, all 4 of those cards are in the same house in Untamed.
Yeah, so that's wild. And then the creatures are fine.
Yeah, nothing real notable. You got the old Mushroom Man. He's pretty good early.
But then, look at this. So Booby Trap, deal 4 to a creature that's not on a flank and 2 splash, so 2 to each of the ones next to it.
Yep.
Red Hot Armor, each enemy creature with armor loses all of its armor till the end of turn and is dealt 1 damage for each armor lost this way.
Oh, that's so good. What an answer to Sanctum.
Then 3 Fates, destroy the 3 most powerful creatures. Hand of Deist, destroy a non-flank creature. We've got, I'll get to that in a second, Seeker Needle.
So this is a good little control.
Obolet,
package.
destroy a creature with 3 power or less. Then,
More importantly, purge a creature.
for my next trick, you have Embrap, can't play more than 2 cards. Look at this, though. So, Charette, play, capture 3.
Yeah.
Drumble, 2 of them. Play, if your opponent has 7 or more, capture all of it.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Schuler, if you have 4 or more, take 1. 2 toxins, where you when I reap, I discard a card from your hand. And then, like, it's got weird stuff going on, too, right?
It's got, I saw that bait and switch. You can't hide it.
Yeah.
2 miasmas as well?
So,
oh my gosh,
yeah.
that is so good with all of that D stuff that's triggering off of high amber counts.
So if you have 7, I capture it all.
Yeah.
Next round. You kill the Drumble, you get the 7 back, you probably gain some. Miasma, skip your Forge a Key.
Yeah.
Next turn, and then it's like, bait and switch, give me 8.
Yeah.
Or whatever the name is.
This would be an infuriating deck to play against.
Yeah, it's got, all of these are just control cards.
And in that way, it's kind of a deck that you would play, I think.
That's what I was saying. It's infuriating. I have more too. Relentless Whispers, deal 2 to a creature. If it destroys that creature, steal 1. And then 2 bad pennies, which is cool with me.
It's fine.
Also, check this.
You'd rather they weren't that. But.
Smiling Ruth, she's elusive and rare. When you reap, if you forged a key this turn, take control of an enemy flank creature.
Wow, that's awesome. Man, good looking card too.
And then just some random stuff. So there's the Key of Darkness. Forge a key at +6 cost. If my opponent has no amber, forge a key at +2 current cost as an action. So just cheat.
That actually could be very, very good for you.
And then the Dominator Babel is an artifact.
I love that card.
Action, use a friendly creature.
Oh, that card is. If I had a deck with 4 or 5 of those in it,
you'd be definitely okay with it. So
and Dodger fights to steal 1. Not a bad creature.
So it's a little light on creatures. It has enough amber cards for me. It also has a few really big amber plays, in my opinion.
It's got some big swings.
It's huge.
But
swings.
it's going to be it's an awful board, honestly, of creatures.
Well,
like there's nothing in there that's scary at all.
It has a ton of ways to keep the board little.
Yeah.
That's again. It almost feels like my old Targaryen burn decks, where I consistently want us to each have 2 or 3 characters.
Yeah.
And I will let you get some amber, and then hopefully I just rob it.
I think that is, and so you looking at that deck, you kind of know going into your first match, it's okay to let them get 5 or 6 really quickly, and then start leveling that playing field and grinding the board down and stealing the amber back and capturing and.
Well, and that's where the deck has a lot of ways to keep you off of forging a key, right? There's the creature that captures 3. There's 2 miasmas, which means you skip it.
Yeah.
There's the characters that capture if you have 7 or more. So if you get to 6 and I say nope, can't forge this turn.
It's so good you probably go to 9, 10 the next turn, right?
And then it's either I hit you with bait and switch or I hit you with capture all of it. Like, that's infuriating.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And the other, what will probably happen with this deck too, like once you realize that, is like, gets to the end of the game, and it's like you just need 1 more key.
Yeah.
And like the hits can keep on rolling.
You could keep punting it down the road.
Yeah, and it's very easy to let that kind of get out of control.
That's fascinating. All right, so there's 2 decks, and I think already right off the bat, I mean, these 2 decks are going to play so differently. I mean, this is an entirely different experience. If I picked up your deck, you picked up mine, we played each of them for a week, we'd have an entirely new KeyForge experience just off of $20 that we just spent. I mean, I think it's incredible. I think that's why this game has blown up as it has. Is like once you actually feel that, you understand that. It's one thing to conceptually understand it, but once you open the decks and you realize how crazily different all of these things are going to play.
Well, and then like immediately even having this conversation, right? Which a lot of times we'll play a deck before we break it down.
Which is fun.
My initial thought is like, man, now I really want to play this deck.
Yeah, right. Like right now. It's like, maybe we'll play it after the podcast.
But like we're doing a podcast. So
real quick, I wanna take a second. I love hearing these comments, so I'm going to read them. First of all, for anybody else who's questioned, Noah Song asked, "Hey, I was just wondering how much you guys cuss. I want to introduce my brother to the game with YouTube and stuff, but he's pretty young, and
Never?
we don't. Yeah, we don't. We keep it G-rated because it's for everybody."
Jason Dunham says, "Play it. We might play it live." One thing I will mention too, while you're queuing those comments up really quick.
Yeah.
If you have a question, normally at the second half of the podcast we do Ask Covenant. So it's #AskCovenant. You can do that on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. We answer questions from that hashtag on the podcast every week. We're going to be picking questions live in a minute. So if you have a question you want us to answer here about KeyForge or anything related to tabletop games or Covenant, feel free to ask it. We're going to pick a few. The ones we don't get to will go in our queue and maybe get answered later.
So Dizzy Pierce, KeyForge display from you guys came in on release day. So great, awesome, one down. Thank you, Dizzy. Thank you for subscribing.
Through the subscription, yeah.
Lore Hunter just got the notification my subscription is at home. Now just to get through the workday, that is the hardest thing. I remember doing that at one point when I was at school and I knew there was a Star Wars trading card game booster box that we had saved up for. It was like, I gotta get home.
Yeah, it's like there's not you may as well go home. I would call in a sick day. Honestly.
Yeah, get out of here.
I'd be worthless.
Dogmatic Karma subscription is the only way to go. My display box arrived on release day as well. That is great, Dogmatic Karma. And then Justin A. KeyForge token selling out in an hour seems like a good audition for FFG Hype Manager. Yes, that's true. The hype was hopefully managed quite well, although managing the hype would have meant, like probably not selling out because we would have kept selling them. If we could have printed more sets, we certainly would have.
Yeah. I like this comment a whole lot. Christopher Zinga on Facebook says, just picked up my starter kit and I'm spending the weekend playing with my kids.
Great.
See, this is one of my favorite parts of KeyForge, which is how universally accessible it is. Because we can play as lifelong card gamers, and I feel like we can scratch the deck building game, card game itch playing this game, right? And every time we want a new experience, we can just grab another deck. And also, like the comment you read earlier about the PG, younger brother, or with the kids, it's like father-son, mother-daughter, mother-son, whatever. It's like, this is so, anybody can play this game. It's so mind-bending, honestly.
It's actually the unaddressed audience in tabletop gaming for a long time. I think is what we're dealing with. It's not quite the board gaming folks. It's not quite the collectible card game folks. But it's essentially everybody in between and everybody well beyond those boundaries. This is actually less intimidating than a board game. If you really dive into it, if you really can teach it well, like opening up that big box and laying out all these components and saying, here's how the phases work and all of that is way harder to me than saying, choose a house, you can do anything with that color on it.
Well, and it reminds me a lot of, so when the Macs in the late 90s started coming back out and they made them really colorful.
Yeah, I had one.
And they made it with a handle on it. So that's how I legit feel about these decks, honestly. So I look at it, right? And this is Varth Cugwheel the Fourth, right? And it's got a little avatar that looks different and it's unique. And it's like, oh, this is your character and it's unique and stuff. And you start looking at the art and it's it's playful.
Yeah.
But not goofy.
It's playful without being silly. It's what do we call it? It's not even. It's somewhat playful, but it's just extremely well done. They managed to do it without it crossing that threshold into silliness.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important.
Or it's not inappropriate.
Right.
It's not I felt that way about the spoils for a long time, which is there's a lot of pop culture references and jokes, and it's funny.
Yeah.
It was very funny, and some of these cards are funny.
Yeah.
But it also got bizarre and way too far
beyond
sometimes.
peachy. Yeah, there's bustiness and all sorts of stuff in that game. A lot of
Also,
blood.
similar comment here. Jason Dunham on Facebook says, "My son was asking if we could play KeyForge before he left for school this morning."
Yeah.
I've been there.
That's so good. Hey, let's bust open another deck.
All right, you want to do this one more time?
Yeah, let's do one more.
All right.
I got the itch now.
Do you want?
You can't just look at him and not bust into him.
What's your ideal combo?
I'll take a Mars deck if you. I know that you're not keen on
Well,
him.
I will also take a Mars deck just so I can. Yeah. You're like Untamed Brobnar here.
Actually,
we go.
you know what?
I might do that.
This is the most interesting one to me now. Faldo Professor Eliminator Paz.
How about I'm gonna do this one. This is Desi High Society Chipwish.
Look at old Beekeeper Lee here.
I'm gonna read the names really quick because it's funny. Slugshot the Nun Lady General. Steph Feargreat from the Sears Condo. Mastermind C Kid Envy.
Kid Envy.
Zap Natural Apothecary Seer. The Mister of Mine Lane.
Mind Lane?
Mine Lane.
Huh.
Curious Yazalt of the Theater. And Varth I Cugwheel the Fourth.
I'm gonna go with Professor Eliminator.
That's an awesome name. Yeah. Oh yeah, and Beekeeper Lee.
Yeah, that's just meandering. All right, let's see if Zach can open a pack this time around.
It's doubtful. Justin A made a nice gif of me trying for about an hour.
Did he already?
Not this time,
Okay.
but it's on the way.
Yeah, it's definitely on the way.
One thing I know. All right, so I'm going to save the Mars card. So I'm going to do the same process here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay out my creatures. Oh my gosh. 3 toxins.
Dude, it's all about those multiples.
Your opponent, it's the reprint of your opponent discards 1, and Succubus, which I love. Dust Imp.
I'm actually looking at the back just to see what oh, this is going to be a fun one too.
All right, here comes Brobnar. Let's hope for a bunch of creatures.
Here comes Brobnar.
Let's go in. I love the War Drummer, by the way.
Double Seeker Needle, always happy to see that.
The Seeker.
Ooh, yes, yes, yes. This is good.
Mm-hmm. This is getting better.
Every deck's just a little bit different. Actually, a lot of
Now
it
I have to
different.
look at the green cards. Look at that, 2 Secret Needles. Get out of here. I love Naughty the Thief.
So you got. All right. So I'm busting open this Shadows pool again. I got 2 Secret Needles, great little direct damage. Got Relentless Whispers, deal 2 if it destroys the creature, steal 1. So like a Secret Needle on steroids. We've got 2 Lights Out, which is return 2 enemy creatures to their owner's hands, and you get an Amber, and 2 Nerve Blasts, steal an Amber if you do deal 2 damage to a creature. So a ton of stealing and direct damage in this Shadow pool. Just perfect kind of board leveling stuff.
You ready for some craziness over here?
Yeah.
So wait, what was that last thing you said? You have a ton of board clearance stuff?
A ton of stealing and direct damage in Shadows. Just a ton of it.
So this deck has 20 creatures.
That's a lot of creatures.
So 18 is in the middle, right? It's half your deck is creatures. I like the 18 to 20 creatures. I like having creatures. You can just put a natural pressure on, right?
Yep.
Play a couple creatures. If they don't do anything, you can reap. If they don't do anything, you can reap. And like most decks don't keep up with that. But I am now laying it out. I'm separating my, oh my goodness.
Here's a great example of things that happen sometimes. So I'm looking at my Mars pool, and here's the thing about this. So it's got a ton of support for multiple Mars creatures being in play. Check this out. Crystal Hive, I've not actually seen this yet. It's an artifact. You take an action. For the remainder of the turn, gain 1 Amber each time a creature reaps. Do you believe how good that is? So double Amber every time you reap for that turn.
That's crazy.
You've got 2 Soft Landings. The next creature artifact enters play ready. So that's a great little combo going on. Psychic Network, you play it, steal 1 for each friendly ready Mars creature. Incredible. Phosphorus Starstone, every
how many
non-Mars
Mars creatures
creature.
do you have?
Only 5.
What is this card?
Only 5. That's the rare. Check them out.
Groom It? Did you already talk about this?
Nope.
You cannot play creatures. After enemy creature is destroyed fighting Gromad, your opponent loses 1.
It's just a 10 health beat stick, basically.
But you can't play creatures until he's gone.
So I've only got 5 Mars creatures, and I've got like at least 2 cards that are really only good if you have a lot of Mars creatures. And then as well as Key Abduction, return each Mars creature to its owner's hand, forge a key at +9, reduced by 1 for each card in your hand.
That could be crazy.
So there are some good things here. I would love to have seen probably 2 to 3 more Mars creatures with this card pool.
So like the 8 Mars that I have here?
Yeah, that would work.
Which is crazy. So I got Attack of the... So Mars has this weird, like, they have the big Dominator.
Yeah.
They also have all of these little tiny things.
Yeah.
And like I feel like it's got 2 Grabber Jammers. It's got a bunch of little characters, which someone would love. All right, let's finish your deck. So
I've got, and then we're going into logos. So I've got
what's that thing?
Essentially 5 creatures. The Replicator again. I got a Replicator and Psychic Bug, the 2 rares in logos. So just little guys with some good utility. And then we've got Dexter and Doc Bookton, some good card draw. Now, I love seeing 2 Wild Wormholes.
Oh, money.
It's always good to see. I don't know where the other one went. It's like, oh, here it is.
Some of these cards are sticking together.
2 Wild Wormholes is good. Remote access using opponent's artifacts if it was your own. That can be good. A Positron Bolt, not bad. A little more direct damage. A Phase Shift, always love seeing that too. Lab Work, you can archive a card. And then the Effervescent Principle, a little bit of Key Denial or Amber Denial. So, you know, if I'm looking at a central theme here, I think Shadows is really setting the tone. I'm going to be able to deal with a lot of small creatures very well. If you start playing big creatures, I don't have any board wipes. I don't have any, like, big creatures to take on your big creatures.
Yeah.
So this deck would struggle to control the board in that case. So I think it wants to move pretty fast. Hopefully the Logos pool with 2 wild wormholes and a phase shift allows it to play creatures out of house.
Yeah.
It can do that very quickly. And then Phosphorus Stars really being my only big board control piece where I can stun every non-Mars creature, and it's only sometimes great.
Yeah, because you only have like 5 Mars creatures.
So what I'm trying to do is basically, I might try to use my Logos pool. I've got a couple of archive cards here to archive Mars creatures and try to get a big hand where I can get them all on the board and then start using things like Crystal Hive and Psychic Network to swing that game. And hopefully the Shadows pool in the meantime can keep your board tiny.
Yeah, well, and that 2 Secret Needles can do that.
Yep.
And you have, what's the Nerve Blast do?
Nerve Blast, steal 1, and if I steal 1, I deal 2 to a creature.
That's so good.
So it's like a reverse Secret Needle or reverse Relentless.
If they have a 3
Whispers.
health thing, you steal 1, do 2 to it, you Secret Needle it, kill it, get 1 again.
Yeah.
So I feel like your Shadows could really go fast.
Yeah, it can, hopefully. Now, if you play a 7 health thing, right, it's going to be trouble because Secret Needle is kind of not going to do anything. Nerve Blast isn't going to matter that much. But I do have 2 Lights Out that returns 2 enemy creatures to their owner's hand, so that's going to be very handy for me.
Yeah. Huh. I feel like that's going to be a weird deck to play.
Yeah. This has less of a theme than the last one for sure. This
Yeah.
one's just a strange one.
And I think that's where, when you're looking at decks, like if you're really trying to evaluate a deck, and again, we mentioned earlier, people paying hundreds of dollars for Horseman decks, and I get it, Horsemen are cool. We pulled Horseman the first time,
But
we
it's
flipped
nuts.
out. But at the same time, like, tell me how you really feel.
Yeah.
The thing is, when I look at decks, I feel like the stronger ones, if you're wanting to play stronger and not just like a specific lane of stuff, are going to be the ones that have those themes.
Yeah.
That really leverage, they have the 2 or 3 ways to do that. And I'm always looking for this is how I play, the big plays.
Yeah.
Where it's like, can I gain...
You like the big plays. You're kind of a Hail Mary guy.
I like gunslingers in football and Hail Marys and just going for it. So that's what do you recognize, at least at this point, any big plays
There
in
are
that deck?
no huge plays going on in this deck, no. Not that I see. But Crystal Hive could be big. What about your deck? Why don't you run on your deck? I'm actually going to run to the bathroom real quick.
All right, he's
we can
gone.
Cut that out of the audio if we need to. But.
Yeah. So I am in the middle on my deck. I like it. Mars is interesting. So it's got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Mars creatures. And these are the little creatures. So it's got 2 John Smiths, who's great. He's elusive. He also has Fight Reap, ready a non-Mars creature. And he combos with any number of these creatures to do awesome things. As an example, I've got 2 Grabber Jammers. Makes your opponent's keys cost +1. When it fights and reaps, it also captures 1. So John Smith, essentially you can reap with a Grabber Jammer, capture 1. Reap with John Smith to ready the Grabber Jammer and do it again. So you gain 2, capture 2. That's a big swing. There's also the Yixlow Bolter. Hey, John. Fights, reaps, deals 2 damage to a creature. If it destroys a creature, you purge it. And Uglith Megamouth, who can use a friendly non-Mars creature. So that's actually my favorite combo, which is if John Smith reaps, you can use Megamouth twice in a turn. And so if you have another creature that's really good, you can use them multiple times on a Mars turn. If I'm going to play Mars, seeing 9 creatures is absolutely ideal. The other things that come with Mars here is Mother Gun. Reveal the number of Mars cards from your hand. Deal damage to a creature equal to the number of Mars cards revealed that way. It's an artifact. I love that card. There's Feeding Pit, which is another artifact. Discard a creature from your hand. If you do, gain 1. And that's particularly good. Again, I have 9 Mars creatures, so that's a good way to get rid of those creatures if I don't want to play them and just kind of gain money very quickly. You can also discard non-Mars creatures, which is great. Again, I have 20. Check this out. Have you seen Feeding Pit?
No.
It's a rare artifact. Discard a creature to gain an amber.
Oh, I like that.
20
Wow, I like
creatures
that a lot,
in the deck, right?
actually.
So you can use it to get rid of your whatever off house you're not wanting to play.
I really like that card.
Yeah. And I went through it when you're gone, but I had a ton. I have 2 of the John Smith. When he reaps, you can ready a non-Mars agent.
Right.
Non-agent Mars creature.
Yeah.
And then I also have the thing that lets me use a non-Mars creature when he reaps. So it's like reap, use a non-Mars creature, reap with John, use the thing.
That's the weird thing about the Martians is like they're so much better than you think they are when you first start looking. Once you start using it in game and you're like, I just gained 16 amber from this crazy back and forth combo that these Martians were put together.
They do weird stuff.
It's insane, yeah.
And then I have an Ammonia Cloud, so it's a 3 damage to every creature, which is a nice. It would murder all of my Mars creatures, but having board wipes is a good thing to have.
Well, you have 20 creatures in that deck, you said?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So you're going to have a lot of creatures on the board, presumably. So this going to be kind of hard to find a good time to play that, potentially.
Unless you just don't have a board.
Oh, but you did get Loot the Bodies and Anger. Wow, so this is just a beatdown deck.
Yeah, and so like it's paired with, so like my creatures over here from Dis are, or Dis, Toxin is when he reaps, you discard a card from your opponent's hand. The Dust Imp, you get 2 when it gets destroyed, and the Succubus, they draw 1 less. So, and then I also got, like, look at this. I got 6 creatures for Brobnar.
Yeah, and the War Drummer, critically.
Sound the Horns to go get a Brobnar creature.
Nice.
Loot the Bodies. I got 2 copies of Anger.
I love Anger. I think that's one of the staple cards for Brobnar.
So this deck has multiple ways of using creatures out of house, right?
Yeah.
So I have the Mars creature that can let me use a non-Mars creature. I have 2 Angers so I can fight. I have a Gauntlet of Command, which is going to let me fight with something out of house. Now, the weird part of this is because all my Mars creatures are the little tiny creatures.
Yeah, little tiny
And
things.
my Dis creatures are also small. They're all 3 or less. Anger, not as good. Because I can't, a lot of times you have like a Dominator with 9 strength that you can ready and
really
fight.
handy.
Yeah. Gauntlet of Command, also not as good. So, kind of talking about the theme here, it's like it's a lot of cards I really like, but not exactly connecting in the way you want them to. But I do have a lot of other good cards. So, Biometrics backup, when a creature is destroyed, it goes back to hand. 2 Flame Wreathed, which is +2 power, which is good for all my little guys.
Oh, this is a cool card. I've not seen this one.
And Hazardous, 2. So, when whatever gets attacked with this on it, the attacker takes 2 before the attack.
Awesome.
So, what I really like with this, and they each gain an amber when you play it, is putting that on the little small Martian creatures.
Yeah.
With elusive.
Oh yeah, that's really nice.
The first time you attack it, you take 2. The second time you attack, you take 2, and it still gets to attack, which is just a painful little point. And then just looking at the other stuff, Mind Barb, discard a random card. I like Hysteria, return each creature to its owner's hand. And then Fear, return an enemy creature. So I think this deck has
it's got some return. It's got a little control in it.
Going.
Yeah.
And I like the Anger, and I like the Loot the Bodies. I think that's one of those big plays. Get a couple of Brobnar creatures out. You go Brobnar, Loot the Bodies. You attack. You Anger. You Gauntlet of Command.
Do you think that you play to the big plays in your deck? I mean, how much of your game plan is about getting to those moments?
I think you play to the big plays if they're big enough.
Yeah?
So, what was the situation I had? Oh, last night. I was playing the deck for the first time. I didn't know what was in my deck. But I drew Loot the Bodies, and there's a card that lets you choose a house in Brobnar and attack with everything from that house.
Yeah.
So, I knew those were in my hand, and I waited. I kept them in my hand for a couple turns. But I was basically building my board of Disc characters. And then I drew up, and I had a bunch of Brobnar. So I played 3 Brobnar down, and I could have gone for it that turn, but I waited. And he didn't have Dis, so I wasn't worried about like a gateway to Dis or
the big board wipes, Valors, if you will.
But then the next round, I went with Brobnar again, and it was Loot the Bodies. I'm going to attack with 8 different creatures this turn. And it's go time.
I mean, yeah, that's a tremendous amount of amber.
But I think it depends. And I think the main thing is understanding what those big plays are in a deck and being able to identify them, because then you at least have the option of playing to them. So if you're behind and you need a big play, you can now start trying to set up the big play. And I think in general, you can kind of guide yourself towards setting those big plays up anyway. And then if you do and you get the right cards, you can just go for it.
Do you think that every deck has to have big plays for it to be like good?
I don't think so. I have to imagine that there are decks that just make good exchanges, right? They play the game, they keep your creatures off the board, they reap when they can reap, and they get 2 or 3. Because the scary thing of big plays, I forget what stream it was on, but it was like you had like 12 or 13 amber, I stole 6 or 7 of it, and you stole it back.
Yeah.
And so, especially when you're playing against shadows, they have weird ways of just taking your amber. So these big plays are great, but it's a nice little design in the game where, like, if you get too high, there are cards that penalize you for that.
Yes.
And so you just have to be careful. So I think of those mid-range decks that like just gain, it's like they build their board and they gain a couple amber every turn. They get to 6, and it's like, stop me from cashing in, and then if you don't, I get a key, kind of a thing. But they don't ever need to like go nuts.
I think this Shadows pool in this deck defines exactly what you're talking about, right? So it has 2 return enemy creatures to owner's hand, so return 2. It's got the Nerve Blast, steal 1, do 2. It's got the Secret Needle, do 1 to gain 1. It's got 2 of those. Relentless Whispers, deal 2, steal 1. Dodger, fight, steal 1. Nexus can use your opponent's artifact. Umbra, fight, steal 1. Naughty, action, steal 1, action, steal 1. So like,
Just playing the fundamentals
this is
there.
just a straight up efficiency Shadows pool right there.
Yeah, I mean, like, in an ideal world, I'm looking at this. The only thing, I think if your deck had the Mars pool from my deck
Yeah.
instead, which is like all those little creatures that are hard to hit, and then a couple of those like removal cards, that you said you had 2 cards that reference how many Martians you have?
Yeah, and there's really a couple. Steal 1 for each friendly ready Martian, and then for the remainder of the turn, gain 1 each time a creature reaps in House Mars, right? So like generally it's going to be hard to trigger this and not reap with just Martians.
Yeah.
I don't think I have a way to do that in this deck. Now I love 2 soft landings.
Is that where they come into play ready?
Yeah, with this kind of ability, right? So like you could soft landing a Martian, and then reap them both for an extra 2 amber for Crystal Hive, or Psychic Network them to steal 1 because they're ready. So there's a lot of, that's the cool thing, and I think ultimately probably my favorite thing to do in KeyForge is to open a deck, play it, maybe play it twice, maybe play it 3 times. Like the number of times that game just turns around whenever you play it again.
Yeah.
I was playing Joe last night. The first game wasn't even close. He was learning the game at the time. First game wasn't even close. Second game, he whipped me. I mean, it wasn't even fair. Like he just
It was
pissed
just
me.
bad, yeah.
So that, you learn the deck as you go, and then I think after you've played 2 or 3 times, you can bust it open and then actually look at how exactly was this working. You start to get under the hood with it, right?
Yeah.
You want to test drive the car a few times, and then you want to maybe look under the hood. So that's honestly what I plan to be doing for KeyForge basically forever. Open a deck, play it a couple of times. If I like the way it's playing, bust it open, and then try to get better at playing it by looking at the actual components.
And that's, I mean, I'm essentially planning to do the same thing, and then any decks that I'm, whether they have Martians or they're just not my style, finding someone to give the deck to.
Yeah.
Which is just, I think that's one of the longer term things about this game that's kind of going to be a sleeper hit part of it.
Yeah.
Which is like this idea, I think my favorite way to play is going to be show up once a week or once every couple of weeks, pay $10, you have a brand new deck, you explore it for 4 or 5 games, and you're out of there.
Yeah.
But over time, right, you have a stack of decks. And it's such an accessible game that like grabbing 2 of those decks that I've played and I'm kind of done with, handing them to someone who's either interested or never played or new to the community, I think that amplified across everyone who's buying decks right now is going to be a phenomenal part of the like strength of this game.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, KeyForge on. Do you want to go ahead and get some Ask Covenant questions?
Let's do
it. Are
it.
you prepared? I've got a couple coming through on YouTube. Why not deal with a question that I love so much, which is Ask Covenant
I can't tell if
from
that's sarcasm or not.
Evan. Why are you called Covenant?
It's a great question.
Zach, why don't you tell me?
Well, the short version of the story is, I won't even say short, the medium level version of the story. When we were growing up, we came from a very small town in Oklahoma called Chelsea. And one of our friends is named Jason, great guy, and he's got a little bit thicker of an accent than we do in Oklahoma. And we drive up to Tulsa, which is where we're now located, in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
I remember those drives so vividly.
Yeah,
so exciting.
I remember my mom being so nervous because he was wild.
Well, we were younger kids, and he was driving us to tournaments in Tulsa.
Yeah,
you know? We were playing
the
together.
weekly get together in Tulsa.
Yeah.
So, anyways, and one of the things he would say is someone would do something, and he was very much up on the rules, which I was not as much.
He was a rules lawyer, wasn't he?
Was definitely, yeah. Probably still is, ultimately. And anyways, someone would do something, and he'd be like, "You can't do that."
Yeah, you can't do that.
And so, for a short period of time,
we're in Oklahoma after all.
as a group, we were called Team Can't. And as you can hear from the name, it was not something we were interested in continuing. So Covenant kind of came from there as like a just cooler name. And there's also an element of like a covenant is agreement between 2 people. And the entire thing of tabletop and gaming is that it's this connection that's happening for us, right? Like
that kind of became more of a happy accident, though,
Yeah.
ultimately, because it was really just you were young, I was young, and we were a team playing games together and
You need a
chesting
name.
together, and
You
it
need a
was
name.
Covenant, and it was like, that sounds cool, right?
Yeah.
And it has morphed into a lot more than that, and I think we're going to explore that a little bit more over the next few years. But
Yeah. Well, and then the other part is initially, I mean, it was Covenant first after when it first started, and then we started doing the blog, and we had to have a separate website.
Yeah.
So then we bought teamcovenant.com, and that was our blog for a long time, and then that stuck way better than the other way around. So
And here we are. I've got another Ask Covenant question from Justin A., our old GIF friend.
the Giffinator.
Star Wars Destiny Set 7 leaked this morning.
Where?
The name of the set is Convergence, and the 2 starters are Obi-Wan and General Grievous. Thoughts?
Assuming this is true, first thought is, where did it leak? I'd love to know.
Yeah, Justin, where'd you find that?
The second thought is, awesome. I mean, Convergence of the Force is a...
What does that mean?
Where is it referenced?
I love calling you out on Star Wars in live situations, especially.
Hold on. I have to think it's...
Justin said the FFG product page. It's pretty convincing. It was probably an oopsie post.
Oops, bonsai. Whoops. I don't know. I want to say it's... I've heard the quote, right? There's been a convergence.
Is it a prequel?
It's got to be. It's Clone Wars or Rebels, in my opinion. The Rebels did this like really bizarre, like time bending thing.
Every series ultimately goes there if it goes long enough.
But it's very specific, the way it works, which is different.
Okay. Midichlorians involved?
Well, unfortunately, now they're always going to be involved because they are the Force. But general thoughts, assuming that's true, sounds cool. I'm excited to see what the packaging looks like. I'm excited to see the cards. I'm excited to see what gets added. I know Legacy's added a lot of mechanics to the game, a lot of indirect damage and power actions and stuff.
Rotation, man.
Rotation's the best part. And then as far as Kenobi and Grievous, great.
Yeah, those are awesome characters to center something around.
I saw a General Kenobi art that went on the front of an RPG book recently of theirs. And he's got like the Republic armor on and stuff, and he looks
cool.
awesome. And I hope that that's what we get. I also, more than anything, the most important thing, if this was leaked or whatever, I hope, for the love of everything that is good in the universe, that the starters are 30-card, legal, playable, viable decks. Because we're talking about KeyForge, right?
Yeah.
And how accessible it is. And someone walks in last night, interested, buys a couple decks, they're ready to go. The most obnoxious thing you have to do when someone walks in and they want to play Destiny is say, well, here's the starter.
Yeah.
But actually you need 2 of them, and half the cards in the second one aren't going to be usable at all, but you need 2 to even be able to legally play this in an event right
Wrong.
now. I don't...
Incorrect.
And the funny part is, like, we're literally talking 8 more cards. If there's just 8 more cards in here, it would be legal.
Yeah.
And I know the cost of 8 cards is not significant.
Well, who knows? Maybe it bumps it up to a new shipping weight or something.
Nope, not. Cut the plastic out. Make the box small. I don't care. Anyways.
A couple other questions here while we got it. Also, the way that this was discovered is this is classic, like, young people on the internet stuff. Typing in URLs and seeing if they're, like, saved in the hierarchy at FFG. So, like, if you type certain URLs in, it will change to the proper URL, which just says Convergence Set 7. And then people were doing that with starters, trying to figure out the product names, and I guess figured out Obi-Wan and General Grievous. This is why we can't have nice things, guys. Another quick question from Open Boats. How are you finding drafting for Across the Galaxy, especially with our Covenant Masters? We're doing a sealed tomorrow. How are you finding Across the Galaxy Unlimited, Zach?
I think it's amazing. With Way of the Force, was that the last set? Yeah, Across the Galaxy. I can get in those 2. For some reason, those names are not different enough for me to separate them in my brain. But with the last set, I had a really rough first maybe month of drafting. It was weird. Like, it was almost like you couldn't draft fundamentally. You had to draft archetypes.
Okay.
So it was like there's 2 or 3 main ways of building a deck, And if you don't know those and pick one of those and draft that way, you just get slaughtered.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel with this one, we're kind of back to where I felt with Legacies, which is you just can pick fundamentally good cards, right? Like you can pick the better card of the stack of 8, and you end up with a really reasonable deck. Now, there are a couple of cards that are just game bending.
Yeah.
Vader's Fist and the Shadowcaster being 2 of them. But no, I think the draft has been incredible. The seal's been incredible. I'm super excited about this set. Regardless, we'll see how the top tier competitive constructed stuff works out. I'm really ready for rotation. I'm tired of the first cycle and all the problems that it brings with it. So crossing my fingers that Snoke and Yoda get a little point adjustment soon. And other than that, enjoying the heck out of sealed and draft. I think it's great.
All right, and finally, Stephen Perkins. What's with the KeyForge starter set price at the moment? It's 60 quid, as they would say. I think that's the British pound. On Amazon and sold out most other places. Yeah, it's gone.
Well,
From
it's
what I
selling
can
out.
Tell, it's selling out. I think the decks are selling out too. The Archon decks are selling out.
I saw reports on Facebook and Reddit and stuff yesterday. A lot of stores are getting allocated on their starters, and it's sold out at FFG's website. So they're going. Like we were saying at the opening of the cast, if you haven't yet got your decks or have a good amount of decks, whatever you're wanting to have for this first set, I recommend doing that ASAP.
Yeah.
Because there's no telling. This could go out of print, and they may not make these decks anymore until set 2. We just don't know. And a lot of their games, they sell out very quickly.
Yeah.
And I think the hype on this game is real now. Because
Yes.
it's, like you were saying earlier, it's one thing to conceptually understand exploring these decks and getting these decks. It's another when you actually do it. And once you start doing it, even now, it's like I have my 12 decks from this display, and I got 7 Martian decks, which I'm not pleased with.
There won't be any Martians in here for you, though. These 2 random decks in here will be good.
But it's like, in my head, it's like, I might want to buy a few more. Like, I might get another display before this thing's gone, because...
We've still got them. We've still got some. You better get them before the price goes up, Zach.
Whoa.
Because you know how scarcity works. You're going to be knocking on my door saying, like, hey, everything's sold out. We probably shouldn't be selling these at a full discount. So thanks for that, Finance.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Congratulations.
All right, so let's get out of here, shall we? I think we've done the official cast. Hashtag Ask Kevin, and of course, you can continue to use that hashtag. We'll pick that up and answer some questions on the podcast again next week. Happy KeyForge release.
Final question for you.
Yeah.
Is it crazy that people paying triple digits for decks?
I think so. I mean, it's not crazy. This is how hype works, right? I mean, people... Now, it would be less crazy if everything was fully sold out right now. I think if I was going to pay... So there's reports that $200-300 are coming in for
you can
these
get 2 or
Horseman
3
decks.
displays?
Now, the Horseman decks are fine, but like, just because you have the collection of Horsemen, which everybody does, if you have one, you have them all, that doesn't mean that they're game-breaking or incredibly good. They're pretty good.
Now,
they're strong.
There are decks with 2 sets of the Horsemen now.
And that's relevant. But like, I don't know, you're kind of missing the point for me a little bit. Like, if you want to try to find the absolute best deck and you're willing to pay $200-300 for that, that's fine. Do your market forces as you like. But for me, so much of this game is about opening that deck and finding out what it's got to offer. And so I have no interest in it. I think all of that's going to cool down as we realize there's 6,000 Horseman decks out there, and not all of them are good, and even most of them might not be good at all. And I think the evaluation of cards and understanding that a deck that doesn't have the flashy stuff could be the better deck and could be the best deck on Earth. Eventually people will start to go that direction, and then I think prices will drop pretty dramatically.
Yeah, well, and I'm curious to figure out in the long run what defines the best deck on Earth.
Yeah, well, the one that wins.
Well, yeah, but of course, like, there's not the meta is what was printed.
Right.
So, like...
And what you're competing against, literally. Because, like, even if we have a Worlds tournament, there's absolutely no guarantee that the best deck is there. Now, if we have a Worlds tournament for a deck-building game, or whatever we call it now, collectible...
Odds are pretty good that the best decks are there.
Because all of this world meta gets together and can test against itself, and then, like, it filters down. But, like, I can't test against somebody in Germany right now.
Yeah.
And if they don't show up to Worlds, I'll never know if I could have beat them with the deck that I had.
Yeah.
So I think that's the fascinating thing, and let's celebrate that. Like, that's an incredible feeling.
Yeah, I think it's cool.
Yeah.
It's super cool.
Well, thank you guys so much for watching and listening. We appreciate everything. We're going to go ahead and roll out the cast here. I think let's hang out on the live stream for a half second while we get things rolled up. And we will catch you on the next episode of the cast. Until next time, keep playing.
We did it.
Boom. All right, so what's up, live stream? We will probably
look at some decks.
I mean, gosh, I mean, it's hard not to play one,
What time
but it
is
is 12:15.
Yeah, we're going to have to go.
We're going to have to leave, aren't we? Mm-hmm. All right, that's a bummer. All right, guys, well, thank you so much for watching us on the stream here. I guess we'll get back to work and make sure these tokens get in stock by the end of next week. Hopefully.
We're trying. Hey, yeah, last note on that. So just a couple things. If you don't have displays, we do have a certain amount of displays in stock right now, shipping now if you order them. I have a feeling these are going to run out.
I have that feeling too.
I don't know how fast it's going to be, but I legit think they're going to run out. And then counter to that or side to that is the tokens. If you're wondering, we're making them as fast as we can. We kind of addressed that earlier for people that are
us being here
on.
does not affect the speed at which the tokens get made.
Please don't confuse that. But we're making them as fast as we can. If you go to the, what's the name of the set, the wait list they should be on?
It's the primary set for the Archon tokens.
So the actual bundle, the deluxe starter, is not, there's not a wait list for that. But if you click over into the primary set, sign up for the wait list, you'll be the first to know when these are back in stock. Like we said, we're making them literally as fast as we can.
And I mean, I'll be honest, because why not be honest on a live stream? There are a lot of people on that wait list right now, like a lot of people. So if you get that notification email that things are back, you're going to have a limited amount of time to make that decision.
And I will say,
presumably.
I understand if you get the email and you get there and it's sold out again.
It's frustrating.
That's frustrating, and we understand. So we're making these as fast as we can, and we're going to keep doing that. We're going to try to get out ahead of that. And so if you do miss it, sign up for the wait list again. We will catch up.
Yeah, eventually we will.
And there will be, it's not going to be a for everything. We're going to make these as fast as we can. And again, we're super grateful to everyone who's buying it. We took a pretty big risk making the procedurally generated Amber tokens, invested a ton of time and money and energy into development for these. So to see so many people responding is just humbling. Like it was easily, we upfront stocked more than we've ever done for any game ever.
Yeah. And
it was sold out in under 2 hours. So it's just mind boggling. And the comments we're getting about people supporting what we're doing here with the stream and the content and the learning series and the subscriptions, unbelievable. So thank you for that.
And why not let you also know that if you want to sign up for a subscription, this is a fine time to do it. That's
sure.
That's the whole point of subscriptions. So like, if you sign up for a KeyForge subscription right now, you will pay nothing. And then a couple of weeks before set 2 releases, you'll get charged and you'll be guaranteed to get however many displays that you want. So if you know you love the game, if you want to keep exploring it, there's no harm in getting in the queue now, because we do have a limited number of spots that we can serve through this subscription. Sure. And I didn't think that it was probably going to like fill up a couple of weeks ago. At this point, I'm thinking there's a good chance that it might.
Yeah.
So if you have any interest in just locking in set 2, and remember, you can cancel anytime. So if it's a month before set 2 comes out, you've lost interest in the game, you can cancel, and you didn't lose anything. All you're doing is getting your place in line and saying, yeah, send me one if I'm in the queue a couple of weeks before it releases.
Yeah, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, and it helps us, because then we kind of know like how many boxes and displays we need to be trying to get for the next release. So that's very helpful. Thank you guys so much. Thanks everybody. Ryan Roper, appreciate you. Michael, appreciate you. You guys are telling us that you're ordering stuff. Ryan
Amazing.
had the KeyForge display box at home last night. So release date is happening, and I'm super amped about it.
And you know what? If you have KeyForge, just enjoy it.
Just love it.
Just ride this train this weekend. And honestly, the other thing I'm going to say, if you end up with a lot of decks, really do consider giving sets of decks to people who either haven't been into these kind of games or on the periphery, because I think that is going to be one of the best ways to grow the entire tabletop community. This game is it's a perfect entry point into this wonderful community that we have. So don't be afraid to do that. I think that's going to be, we've already seen it. One of our staff members brought a couple friends in, bought their first deck for them, and before the night was over, they were buying their own decks, and they're excited, and I think they're coming back tonight and tomorrow for all the stuff this weekend. So I highly encourage that activity. I'll be doing the same with about 7 of these decks.
I'll take them.
John's over there foaming at the mouth for my Martian decks. So anyways, thank you guys for watching.
Thanks for